It's mailbag time here on 76ers Now, taking your questions that you have so far this season on the Philadelphia 76ers. I am Jake Chipper. Thank you so much for joining us here on 76ers Now and making us a part of your day. And if you did not get a question in on this mailbag, well, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And when you subscribe, be sure to check out our community tab. That is where we post mailbag calls for videos like these, but also other poll questions and things like that to interact with the community. So be sure to hit that sub button so you don't ever miss out on another mailbag video. And without further ado, let's get right into it. First question coming in from Philly Girl live from the 215. Like that name. Is it time to trade Joel Embiid and build around Tyrese Maxey and the other younger players? And this is a question that I've seen a lot in our comment section here on the channel. People saying, hey, is it time to move forward and move on from Embiid and embrace this youth movement with Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain and look more towards the future? Look, in my opinion, I am not trading Joel Embiid. I know he has the injury concerns, right? And it's so hard to know when he'll play on a night-to-night basis and how much can you really rely on him to be there when it matters the most come playoff time. But look, Joel Embiid remains one of, in my opinion, the 3 to 5 best players in the league. I would personally have him top 3, but, you know, it is what it is. You don't trade that type of player, especially because I don't think you're going to get adequate value for Embiid because his injury concerns will be factored in if a team does trade for him. You're not going to get as much as you should for a perennial MVP candidate and first-team All-NBA player. And the Sixers just signed Embiid to an extension. They just signed Maxey to an extension. They just signed Paul George to an extension. So it doesn't make sense now in year one of this core to just decide to flip on that and move on from Joel Embiid. Maybe in a couple years, if the injuries really do start to pile on and the team hasn't had the type of success that you want, then maybe you consider making a move like that. But I would only ever trade Embiid if he were to specifically ask out and say, I'm never playing here again, I am gone. Otherwise, I am not in favor of trading Joel Embiid. But I want to open the floor to you guys here. If you were Daryl Morey sitting on this team right now, and it was up to you, would you trade Joel Embiid? Type T for trade, type K for keep. This is the poll question on today's video. So if you get a hit with a YouTube ad break, take advantage of that time. Go down to the comment section and answer today's poll question. Coming up next, Robert S. Down 6702. How are the medical staff treating Joel Embiid's knee? How are they able to get him comfortable enough to move like he did in the victory over the Bulls? So look, Joel Embiid's injury status and what's going on with his knee, it's a confusing situation because there is no new injury with the knee. Now, we released a video last week on the channel going through exactly what's going on with Joel Embiid's injury. That's 76ers just got the worst news possible on Joel Embiid's knee injury. You can go back and watch that. But to give you a little bit of a backstory and just a quick synopsis of what exactly is going on with Embiid from multiple doctors who have reported this, basically, there is no new injury for Embiid. He did not suffer an injury in the Olympics. He did not suffer an injury in training camp or this season. What has happened is he's had multiple surgeries on the meniscus in his right knee over his career in the NBA. And when he has these meniscus surgeries, they remove part of the meniscus that's causing, the injury and whatever pain he's having. But when you do that multiple times, like Embiid has had, it lessens the meniscus's ability to protect the knee, which is what its function is. And then that's when you get bone-on-bone contact in that knee, thus resulting in pain and swelling. And that is what Joel Embiid has been dealing with this season. Just random pain, random swelling like we saw last week where he was out for over a week because of swelling in his knee. What's so frustrating with this injury is there's, no definite way to know how long he's going to be out or when he's going to be out because it can flare up at any moment. He could be fine for days, for weeks, for months, and then all of a sudden, boom, that swelling's coming back and he's out for a week or however long. So it's very frustrating because there is no specific injury that you can point to and say he'll be out this long. It's really a day-to-day thing and just hoping he can play. He'll have good days, he'll have bad days. That's why we saw that against the Chicago Bulls was one of his good days. You just hope and pray, really, that he can get lucky enough to keep stacking up good days, stay on the floor, be healthy, and help this team win some games. Next up, Teacher Got Game 2203. Would you trade Guerschon Yabusele for an early first in the 2025 draft? Well, let me start off with this. I don't think Guerschon Yabusele would fetch you an early first-round pick in the 2025 draft. He has been very, very good this season for the Sixers in his return to the NBA off that Olympic run he had for Team France. Nearly 10 points a game, 5.5 boards, shooting 49% from the field, almost 40% from the three. That was the big thing with Guerschon Yabusele coming into the season was, is that three-point shot reliable, and can he build off what was an improved jump shot that he showed overseas? And so far this year, he has. And let me tell you, he's been very, very good for the Sixers team. Just being an undersized center, he's had to play a lot of center this year, even though I think his natural position is at the 4 because of injuries to Embiid and Andre Drummond. And man, he's fighting down there. He is a dog, hunting for loose balls and running the floor hard. Again, knocking down that three-point shot and just showing toughness and ability to finish at the rim as well. He's been a very valuable player for the 76ers. Now, he is obviously only signed to a one-year deal, and because of some intricate CBA details, the Sixers can only sign him to so much money on a potential contract extension, whereas other teams would be able to give him more money. It's kind of like the Isaiah Hartenstein situation with the New York Knicks and why they lost him. But personally, I'm not trading Yabusele, even if it is, if someone offers me an early first, sure, I'll take it. I don't think that would happen. Even a back end of the first round pick, though, I don't think I would take that. He's been too valuable to what the Sixers want to do, the exact kind of player they've needed in this rotation. And there's even been reports, people have asked, would the Sixers consider trading him? And Mark Stein reported that the Sixers are not looking to move Yabusele because he's been that good for them this season. But once again, I'll ask you, would you trade Guerschon Yabusele for a first-round pick? Let's say, not an early first-round pick, but say a team in the back half of the first round came to the Sixers with an offer, a first-round pick for Guerschon Yabusele at this trade deadline. Would you take that deal? Just give me a simple yes or no down in the comments section. A few more questions to get to, but before we do, the holiday season is here, and there is no better time to go Christmas shopping for your loved ones. And what better apparel to get than some Sixers gear, especially these 76ers hoodies. Plenty of 76ers hoodies available right now through our friends at Fanatics. All different styles and colors and sizes. Personally, my favorite, this Spectrum throwback hoodie right there. Love the look. The little rainbow and the white, similar to what their City Edition jerseys are this year. This one as well. The old school Sixers font, just so clean. So if you're looking to get a last-minute Christmas gift, something for the Sixers fan in your life, head to chatsports.com/76hoodies and get yourself some fresh 76ers merch today. All right, next up from Melly2Fam. Why is Maxey not the same as last year? So we've talked about this on the show a little bit. Maxey's efficiency in particular. That's the word I want you to keep in mind when talking about Maxey this season. Has not been what it was really his whole career, and even last year. You can see last season, the counting stats aren't a whole lot different. Slight increases in points and assists compared to this year. But, last year, you can see 45% from the field. That's dropped off to 40 this year. 37% from three. And he's been a 40% three-point shooter a lot throughout his career as well. Down to just 29% this year. So the question is, well, why is this happening? Has he taken a step back as a player? Is this the player he is now? Should we be concerned about Tyrese Maxey now moving forward? Look, I would tell you this. I would not be worried personally about Tyrese Maxey. I think the reason he struggled so far this season is because it's been such a tumultuous start to the year with different lineups being thrown all over the place, and he's really had to put a lot more on his plate than he is used to, and that's the unfortunate reality of what's been happening this season with Tyrese Maxey. Starting the season, in particular, that first week or so, he took on a much larger offensive load. Now, I know last year when Joel Embiid went out with that injury in February, he also had to take on a much larger offensive load, and he was still efficient and still effective and able to carry this team offensively. This year, it hasn't been the case, but I think I've seen this year him maybe pressing a little bit more, him not being able to hit some of the open shots he was able to hit last year, and him just trying to be a little more aggressive in spots where maybe he shouldn't be necessarily because he feels that pressure and feels that burden of needing to carry this team offensively. But Maxey is still an all-star level player. He is still one of the best guards in the East and in the NBA as a whole. And I would not be worried moving forward because when this team is fully healthy and has Embiid, Paul George, Maxey on the floor, we saw in the Chicago Bulls game, Maxey was phenomenal, especially as a playmaker. So I wouldn't be worried about Maxey moving forward. That three-point number will increase from 29%. He's shown that his whole career. And hopefully he turns it around and this team can start to turn it around as well. Anthony Larone coming in next. Why does Kyle Lowry keep getting on the floor when he is washed up? Look, I have the same question as you, Anthony. Nick Nurse is a big Kyle Lowry guy, obviously going back to his days in Toronto. And, Nurse has been known at some points to be one who plays his veterans more often than some of his younger guys. But, look, Kyle Lowry just has not been particularly effective this year. He started off the year shooting 60% from three. Now you can see his stats. Not playing every game, but when he does play, about 22 minutes, 5 points, 3 assists. Shooting splits, just not good. 37 from the field is horrific. 35 from three is fine, but not on a ton of volume. I think, as the season's moved along, Kyle Lowry has played a little bit less and less, and we've seen more, for example, of Jared McCain on the floor. And I was a fan of the Sixers bringing back Kyle Lowry because I thought he was very effective for the team last season down the stretch and in the playoffs. But it's just clear, Father Time has caught up to him. He's getting up there in age. I believe he's, 38, 39 years old. At some point, Father Time just catches up to you, and that's okay. It happens to every player in the league, right? So I think he still has value on this team. 38 years old for Kyle Lowry, by the way. He'll be 39 in March. I think he can still have value for you off the court as a, sort of extension of the coaching staff. He was the one who called the team meeting when the Sixers really needed it after that horrific start. So he still has value, but I think Nick Nurse kind of just has, loyalty to his guy and still wants to get him in there from time to time. I don't mind some spurts here and there, but I don't want to see him playing over Jared McCain or, over some of these younger guys who I think just give you more juice at this point in his career. Kyle Lowry, in my opinion, is a Hall of Fame player, won that NBA championship and an absolute legend, and of course a Philadelphia legend as well, playing at Villanova. But I think his time has passed, and I think now it's time for some of these younger guys to start getting more run and for Kyle Lowry to take a little bit of a back seat. And last question here from Closed Eye Willie. What was your favorite era of 76ers basketball? So I was born in 2001. I know, I'm a little young. And I didn't start watching basketball probably until around 2010, 2011. So when I was at around 10, 11 years old, and I was immediately a Sixers fan growing up in the Philadelphia area. So my first experience watching the Sixers was, that last year or so before Drew Holiday was traded from the team. And then when I really was starting to watch basketball and watch the Sixers was when the process year started, right? So it wasn't a lot of great basketball for me to watch growing up as a Sixers fan. But still, during those process years, even though they were doing a whole lot of losing and a whole lot of tanking, there were still some pretty fun teams to watch. You think about those teams with Tony Roten, one of my favorite process Sixers. I always remember going to a Sixers-Bucks game back in, I want to say, Christmas of 2013 with my dad. It was a crazy game. Spencer Hawes hit a one-legged fall-away three-pointer in the corner to send the game to overtime. Those are great memories I have of that team because they didn't have any expectations, so there was no pressure, so there was no stress when they were losing games as opposed to now where it's man, they are just in a spot where they're not meeting expectations and it's stressful and we're always concerned about and worrying about them. So, I think those teams back then were a lot of fun, again, with Tony Roten and Hollis Thompson, Rashawn Holmes, Robert Covington, even the Dario Saric years, Jahlil Okafor. But I think if I had to pick one team that was my favorite team to watch, and it's going to be pretty obvious, it's a Jimmy Butler year. That's, in my opinion, the best supporting cast Joel Embiid has ever had, even counting this team right now. And the way the team was constructed, J.J. Redick coming off those pin downs and firing away from deep and just seeing the impact and the effect Jimmy Butler had on this team. Even Ben Simmons was still playing decent basketball. And, of course, Joel Embiid, probably the happiest he's ever been playing basketball. So I think that was probably my favorite era of Sixers basketball. But I know a lot of you probably have some other different opinions on what your favorite era of Sixers basketball was. And, some of you probably did watch those early 2000s teams that I was not fortunate enough to get to watch live with Allen Iverson making the run to the finals. So if I got to watch that team, that might be my answer. But I want to hear from you. What was your favorite era of Sixers basketball? Let me know in the comments section. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's mailbag. Again, if you want to get on the next mailbag on 76ers Now, be sure to subscribe, turn on your notifications, and check out our community tab. Until then, thank you so much for watching us here today on 76ers Now.